Rainbow Magic, Ruby the Red Fairy, Chapter 1. The End of the Rainbow. Look, Dad, said Rachel Walker. She pointed across the blue-green sea at the rocky island ahead of them. The fairy was sailing towards it, dipping up and down on the rolling waves. Is that Rainspell Island? She asked. Her dad nodded. Yes, it is, he said, smiling. Our holiday is about to begin. The waves slapped against the side of the ferry as it bobbed up and down on the water. Rachel felt her heart thump with excitement. She could see white cliffs and emerald green fields in the island, and golden sandy beaches, with rock pools dotted here and there. Suddenly a few fat raindrops plopped down to Rachel's head. Oh, she gasped, surprised. The sun was still shining. Rachel's mom grabbed her hand. Let's get under cover, she said, leading Rachel inside. Isn't that strange? Rachel said. Sunshine and rain. Let's hope the rain stops before we get off the ferry, said Mr. Walker. Now, where did I put that map of the island? Rachel looked out of the window, her eyes opened wide. A girl was standing alone on the deck. Her dark hair was wet with raindrops, but she didn't seem to care. She just stared up at the sky. Rachel looked over at her mom and dad. They were busy studying the map, so Rachel slipped back outside to see what was so interesting. And there it was, in the blue sky high above them, was the most amazing rainbow that Rachel had ever seen. One end of the rainbow was far out to sea. The other rainbow was far out to sea. The other seemed to fall somewhere on Rainspell Island. All of the colors were bright and clear. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Isn't it perfect? The dark-haired girl whispered to Rachel. Yes, it is, Rachel agreed. Are you going to Rainspell on holiday? The girl nodded. We're staying for a week, she said. I'm Christy Tate. Rachel smiled as the rain began to stop. I'm Rachel Walker. We are staying at Mermaid Cottage, she added. And we're at Dolphin Cottage, said Christy. Do you think we might be near each other? I hope so, Rachel replied. She had a feeling she was going to like Christy. Christy leaned over the rail and looked down into the shimmering water. The sea looks really deep, doesn't it? She said. There might even be mermaids down there watching us right now. Rachel stared at the waves. She saw something that made her heart skip a beat. Look, she said, is that a mermaid's hair? Then she laughed. When she saw that, it was just seaweed. It could be a mermaid's necklace, said Christy, smiling. Maybe she lost it when she was trying to escape from a sea monster. The ferry was now sailing into Rainspell's tiny harbor. Seagulls flew around them, and fishing boats bobbed on the water. Look at that big white cliff over there, Christy said. She pointed it out to Rachel. It looks a bit like Giant's face, doesn't it? Rachel looked and nodded. Christy seemed to see magic everywhere. There you are, Rachel, called Mrs. Walker. Rachel turned around and saw her mom and dad coming out to the deck. "We'll be getting off the ferry in a few minutes," Mrs. Walker added. "Mom, Dad, this is Christy," Rachel said. "She's staying at Dolphin Cottage." "That's right, next door to ours," said Mr. Walker. "I remember seeing it on the map." Rachel and Christy looked at each other in delight. "I'd better go and find my mom and dad," said Christy. She looked round. "Oh, here they are." Christy's mom and dad came over to say hello to the Walkers. Then the ferry docked, and everyone began to leave the boat. "Our cottages are on the other side of the harbor," said Rachel's dad, looking at the map. "It's not far. Mermaid Cottage and Dolphin Cottage were right next to the beach." Rachel loved her bedroom, which was high up in the attic. From the window, she could see the waves rolling onto the sand. A shout from outside made her look down. It was Christy. She was standing under the window, waving at her. "Let's go and explore the beach," Christy called. Rachel dashed outside to join her. Seaweed lay in piles on the sand, and there were tiny pink and white shells dotted about. "I love it here already," Rachel shouted happily above the noise of the seagulls. "Me too," Christy said. She pointed up at the sky. "Look, the rainbow's still there." Rachel looked up. The rainbow glowed brightly among the fluffy white clouds. "Have you heard the story about the pot of gold and the end of the rainbow?" Christy asked. Rachel nodded. "Yes, but that's just in fairy stories," she said. Christy grinned. But let's go and find out for ourselves." "Okay," Rachel agreed. "We can explore the island at the same time." They rushed back to tell their parents where they were going. Then Christy and Rachel set off along a lane behind the cottages. It led them away from the beach, across green fields, and towards a small wood. Rachel kept looking up at the rainbow. She was worried that it would sort of fade now that the rain had stopped, but the colors stayed clear and bright. "It looks like the end of the rainbow is over there," Christy said. "Come on!" And she hurried towards the trees. The wood was cool and green after the heat of the sun. Rachel and Christy followed the winding path until they came to a clearing. Then they both stopped and stared. The rainbow shone down onto the grass through a gap in the trees, and there at the rainbow's end lay an old black pot. It is the end of chapter 1.